Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm presenting a guide on how to make gatehouses, externals, and disconnectable TCs. A couple of months ago, I put out a guide on the compound meta and some support structures you can include to make your life easier. One of the main purposes of the support structures is to extend your building privilege for a compound, but I didn't expand much on that. If you haven't seen the first video, you can find a link to that in the description. If you want to skip over the guide and go straight to the designs, go to this time in the video. But with that being said, let's start with some background knowledge. In Rust, there are essentially two types of bases you can make: a normal single TC base or a multi-TC base. Both of these bases can benefit from floor stacking. In the description, I'll link some videos that explain that method and how to integrate it into a base. There are positives and negatives to both types of bases. Single TC bases are usually more simple to build, don't require tons of flat-ish terrain, but are usually weaker, have more expensive upkeep, and lack good defenses. In comparison, multi-TC bases are usually stronger due to wall stacking, have cheaper combined upkeep, and give more opportunities for better defense, but usually come with the trade-off of having potential gaps, needing large flat areas, and inherently needing multiple external TCs to make the design function. Both types of bases will almost always benefit from being enclosed in a compound, potentially with support structures, but most definitely from gatehouses and especially disconnectable TCs. Specifically with multi-TC bases, their whole existence is contingent on multiple external tool cupboards meeting up to appear to make a singular cohesive base. These structures are very important as they house the external TCs and make up the section of the base, but it also provides a great opportunity to expand upon its main purpose with additional features. Let's start with gatehouses. They're exclusively used in place of high external gates for compounds for several reasons. Depending on what you build, it may cost less resources and gears, can be outfitted with drop boxes to quickly dump loot, beds and lockers for flanking opportunities, or with auto tear pods to repel door campers and potentially grubbers or raiders inside your walls. It can provide more angles to engage players out of, and extends your building privilege with external TCs or disconnectable TCs. You can also easily incorporate a vehicle entrance. But there are some negative trade-offs, like requiring metal barricades on top of them to prevent players from easily laddering over. But even then, players could still build twig and antagonize you through the barricades. And lastly, it adds an additional upkeep to maintain. Personally, I feel the positives outweigh the negatives, especially because it allows you to establish a compound early into the wipe without having to try and find a high external gate blueprint. However, most gatehouses need to be combined with the next two things we're going to talk about. So next, let's talk about externals. In this case, they should not be mistaken with external support structures. While those also extend building privilege, I'm referring to external TCs that are specifically being used with a TC-less gatehouse design. Depending on the gatehouse design you go with, these will be essential to house the TC, extend your building privilege, but especially for multi-TC bases. They can also serve as an extra bubble of protection with auto turrets, and depending on the design, players won't be able to soft side disconnect your TC. On the negative side though, inherently, the beefier the external, the higher the upkeep. If you build too close to your wall, depending on the design, players could use its height to easily build twig and jump over your walls. Without auto turret pods, players could hide behind it and catch you off guard as you leave your base. External TCs have become a necessity in any base nowadays, but especially if you want to build a compound. But this next style of external TC unlocks the tool cupboard's full potential: disconnectable TCs. They work exactly as external TCs, negatives included. However, the main feature is being able to quickly and easily disconnect external TCs to temporarily reduce building privilege overlap to replace TCs that may have been destroyed in a raid. This comes with the caveat of being more vulnerable to soft siding and easily being able to disconnect your own TC from you. Though, depending on the design, you can find ways to deter players from doing it or at least slow them down. As of right now, that's why disconnectable TCs are so important. In general, both external types are essential for gatehouses and compounds, but especially for multi-TC bases. Moving on to the designs, if you're only interested in a particular category, go to the time you see on the screen now or check the video description to jump to that part of the video. First, we'll be starting with gatehouses. There are several potential designs ranging from very basic entrances to fully developed mini bases with tons of features. I encourage you to tailor these designs to fit your needs. The first design is very small. It's two triangles with two floating double door frames that connect to a TC extension that cannot be soft-sided. One triangle works as a player airlock entrance, while the other serves as a vehicle entrance. Two metal barricades sit on top of it to prevent players from easily laddering over it. The biggest downside is no drop boxes for quickly dumping loot. The second design is the next smallest footprint, but it is essentially the same thing except that it adds an additional airlock going into the compound and allows for auto turret pods to be outfitted to protect both sides of the compound walls. This third design is the AloneInTokyo style entrance. Unlike the last two, it allows you to temporarily dump loot to get you back to a fight, easily fight players on both sides of your walls, and can be modified with auto turret pods or a vehicle entrance. Lastly is my own MiniPillbox 2.0 that I showcased in my last guide. This gatehouse comes with ample drop boxes, a respawn room, auto turret pods on both sides of the walls, and a vehicle entrance. Let's take a look at some external designs that you could pair with a gatehouse that needs a TC. This first design is a very small external TC that fits perfectly with the smallest gatehouse entrance I showed you earlier. With these combined, it executes its single trick effectively while costing very little to build and maintain. If you want some more security, you can use the second design, which basically just surrounds an external TC with auto turret pods and makes a bubble of protection when entering and exiting your compound. However, you will have to find a spot for the battery and electrical components to remotely open the garage doors. Like I said earlier, Disconnectable TCs unlock the full potential of tool cupboards when used in externals, but especially with multi-TC bases. The first design I recommend is from Atmos, the founder of Disconnectable TCs. It's a super simple and cheap disconnectable external. However, the main weakness with these disconnectable TCs is that the roofs can be disconnected by soft siding. Additionally, players can potentially camp under it depending on where you put them. It won't be foolproof, but depending on the design, you can incorporate auto turret pods to help deter players from doing those things. Another helpful counter is to put metal barricades under the roof if there's enough clearance. One big negative about most of these disconnectable TC designs is that they require more height to properly use the mechanic. And because of this, it opens up the possibility of players potentially being able to place twig and jump over your wall if the structures are too close. The easiest solution I've found to this is putting more distance between the gatehouse and the external. The second design does both of those things while also including a locker and sleeping bags to use as a respawn point for flanking opportunities. While I recommend you hook up the auto turret pods to door controllers to remotely operate, in this particular design you are able to manually toggle all the garage doors from within the structure. The armored foundations and floating double door frames ensure raiders will have to spend considerable time if they want to soft side disconnect your external TC from you. This third design is basically a modified version of the first design that tacks on 3 auto turret pods and adds a proper entrance. Unfortunately, there isn't a lot of room on the inside, but you can fit at least one sleeping bag, a couple boxes, and a large battery with electrical components. This fourth design expands on the first and third design by integrating a gatehouse entrance. Personally, this isn't my favorite design as it's kind of cramped, but I'm including it because I feel that it could be beneficial if you can live with its shortcomings. With some tweaking, it could be fantastic for some of you. And the last designs we'll be looking at in this category is actually a modified version of a fantastic design by Rust creator GameLightz, who introduced the Sentinel a couple of weeks ago. Taking inspiration from that, I made some modifications to the internal layout and incorporated some auto turret pods around the structure. In respects to the internal layout, some key differences are the addition of a proper airlock and allowing full access between the floors with the triangle ladder hatch. In a more experimental iteration, I was able to eliminate all but one soft-sidable element, that being the essential roof piece for the disconnectability aspect. While this version removes that roof hiding spot, it wasn't really much of an issue anyways due to the auto turret pods, and it shifts the internal layout to what might be a less superior arrangement. With any of these versions, you can incorporate a compound player or vehicle entrance on either side of the structure. If you're not interested in the tower and catwalk, you can always leave it as a humble disconnectable TC with the entrances on either side of it. Finally, here are my favorites from each category. For gatehouses, it should come as no surprise that my MiniPillbox 2.0 I introduced to you in the last guide is still my best recommendation thanks to its many features. Although it's not the cheapest design out there, and because of that my runner-up would be Design 1 for its simplicity. For externals, Design 2 is my favorite due to its simplicity and auto turret pods. And lastly, for disconnectable TCs, I would recommend Design 2 for once again, simplicity and its features. But if you're interested in something with more defense, I definitely recommend GameLightz Sentinel design or my modified version of it. Design 6 is also a good alternative if you're not interested in the tower and catwalk, but want a feature-rich external with potential player and vehicle entrances. That's all I've got for now though. I hope you learned a thing or two about the importance of gatehouses, externals, and disconnectable TCs. Be sure to check out those videos and creators I talked about in the description. I hope you enjoyed the guide and the designs. These guides take a tremendous amount of time and work, so consider showing your support below and remember to subscribe for future content. But until next time, thanks for watching.